The Koinonians were an intelligent culture which became embroiled in a war that lasted for several generations. Jeremy Astor's dad died 5 years ago from a Russian infection, and Worf has a new brother. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is
Good
Ryan
job.
T. Husk, and I got Koinonians nailed in one try,
Yeah.
maybe
Good
three.
job.
Today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 5, The Bonding, written by Ronald D. Moore. Finally getting into his good stuff. Directed by Weinrich Colby. This was October 21st, 1989. Where were you? We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.
What's up, everybody? I'm Cirroc Lofton from the Seventh Rule Podcast, and I'll be at STSF this year in the Bay Area, celebrating with our friends at Creation.
Okay. Cirroc's also from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You might recognize him from that. And my name is Ryan T. Husk of The Seventh Rule. You've got to go to this convention. It's March 8th through 10th, just south of San Francisco in Burlingame, right by the airport. You're going to love it. There are already well over 20 Star Trek and sci-fi guests, tons of panels. This is March 8th through 10th. CreationEnt.com. That's CreationEnt.com to get tickets and to get your hotel. We can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, I'll be there. Ryan will be there, and we'll represent the Seventh Rule Podcast.
And Star Trek Deep Space Nine. How you doing today, Cirroc?
Doing well. Doing well.
Mm-hmm.
1989.
Yeah, a lot of big stuff. I remember the Loma Prieta earthquake was October 17th, 1989. That was in Northern California, so that was just a few days before that. The Bay Bridge series. Hey, everybody. This episode is sponsored by STSF from Creation Entertainment. You have got to go to STSF. It's March 8th through 10th. Tons of Star Trek guests. Star Trek and sci-fi actors. You are going to love it. Check this out. It's in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's in Burlingame, just south of San Francisco, right next to the airport. So you could just fly in and go to an awesome convention. Look at it. Whoa. Look at that gorgeous man that's going to be there. Cirroc Lofton. We got Connor Trenier.
Connor Trenier, Don Lewis.
Brent Spiner, Bonnie Gordon, of course. Look at all of these amazing faces. They're all going to be there. And Cirroc and I cannot wait to see all of you there. Go to creationentertainment.com. That's creationent.com to get tickets to the event, to get a room at the hotel. Can't wait to see you there. Right, Cirroc?
I cannot wait. Burlingame, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's San Francisco Airport. It's just right outside. It's not like Denver where you have to drive like an hour out of Denver to go to their airport, if you've ever seen that.
Yes, I have. I've lived that. But yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be an amazing time. And of course, Creation is always first class at running these events. So that's what I'm expecting. First class, top of the, food chain as far as these conventions are concerned. So yeah, I'm excited.
Absolutely. I love it. If you love going to STLV or if you've heard of it, but you can never make it, here's your chance to go to STSF. Yep. Anyway, that's March 8th through 10th. So, Cirroc, The Bonding, The Next Generation, The Bonding. I remember this kid. As soon as I saw this kid, I was like, I vaguely remember this episode. What'd you think of it?
I have some mixed feelings about it. There were elements that I liked and some that it was just not that appealing to me, some parts of it. But I thought as far as the kid was concerned, I thought he did a good job. He's really young, but he's working with a bunch of adults. I know that feeling. And I thought he did a great job, holding his own, not doing too much overacting, especially in the beginning about being reserved and internalizing a lot of things. I'm sure that was the direction they gave him. And it seemed like he played it appropriately. So, and then when it was time for him to kind of open up and switch his emotional scale towards the end, I thought he also hit the gas well in that moment too. So the kid I thought did a great job. Actually reminded me of the Twilight Zone episode where there's a kid who has the power to um, wish people away or use his mind to just wreak havoc on this small town. So everybody lives in fear of this little boy. And when he gets mad at you, he'll say, "You're a bad man. You're a
Uh,
very bad man."
that does sound
And
familiar.
yes, it's a very famous Twilight Zone episode. He turns one person into a jack in the box. He turns this adult who's like, hey, get rid of this kid. We need to, fight this kid. He gets really mad at that guy, and he's like, "You're a bad man." Turns him into a jack in the box. So he's like his head is on a little spring, and it was kind of frightening as a kid to watch, and terrifying. This Twilight Zone episode was really exceptional and one of the most memorable ones. But the boy in this episode reminded me of that kid with just the facial expressions and the eyes too. There was something in the eyes that was very familiar.
This kid, by the way, his name is, let's see where to go. Gabriel Damon. And our good buddy, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, let us know, or let me know ahead of time, that he's the kid that does the voice for Littlefoot in The Land Before Time. Do you remember that cartoon of dinosaurs and there was like a little baby brontosaurus or something running around? And when I heard him talking, I was like, I actually recognize that voice. I'm like, I guess I must have seen it because I definitely recognized it. So he's Littlefoot. I feel like they also had like sequels too. Maybe they even had like a series afterwards. I feel like there was a series. He also did the voice for Little Nemo in Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland. This kid's done a lot of stuff. He was in Growing Pains, Mr. Belvedere, Just the 10 of Us, RoboCop 2, lots of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he did look familiar to me. When you said uh, RoboCop 2, that kind of made me think of something.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, he did a good job. He was, I have no beef or no qualms with his element of the story. It's actually interesting because I guess the reason why this is not my favorite subject matter is because it deals exactly with the flaw that I think is in thumbs up is one of the flaws that I think is in Picard's character profile, which is his disdain for kids. Right? It's like it's overly pronounced. To me, I mean, I know people that don't like kids, and they're like, but they're not that adamant about it. It's like they might be like closet kid haters, but they're not. They don't announce it publicly. Like, get that kid out of here. So particularly, this is one of my knocks on Picard. Is how I feel like his character is written towards children. Obviously, being a kid on Deep Space Nine influences that. So I'm going to have a bias just based on my familiarity and background with Sisko and our relationship. So that to me is one of the big glaring flaws in his character, is how comfortable he is in life or death situations. He's so willing to, like, it doesn't matter. He's facing, Q is going to destroy him. They're going to wipe out the Enterprise. He just stands there very calmly, like, go ahead, calling somebody's bluff, playing chicken with, extermination. But when it comes to kids, that's the thing that it's like his kryptonite, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing that presses his button and makes him extremely not cool. He loses his fawns coolness to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of explained it a little bit in this case, not so much his disdain for kids or his discomfort around kids, but why he believes that they don't belong on a ship. Like he was basically saying he doesn't like having them on a ship because look, if a parent gets sentenced to death or, or gets put to death on an away mission, that's their choice. They've chosen this life. They've chosen this job. They've chosen this risk, but the child has not. And so now he's like, okay, so, now he's got this guilt where he has to live with the fact that, not only is he making commands that sometimes end up in death, but that those people, they chose that lifestyle and the kids have not. And so now he's stuck like making a bunch of orphans all the time. And nobody wants that responsibility. But obviously, he has to just tell himself that wasn't my choice. That's the parents that are choosing to bring a kid into this life. But I could see how that could wear on you. And then, of course, then there's also the selfish way that he looks at it, which is like, then we have to deal with an orphan. What are we supposed to do with this kid? Now we got a 12-year-old kid with no parent, and by the way, I wanted to ask you, Cirroc, did you find it a little strange that they're just like, well, I guess the kid's just going to live by himself in his quarters now? He was just living by himself in his quarters as a child. Shouldn't they have like a program to assign him a guardian, a temporary guardian or something? Can they really just trust a 12-year-old to just live in his court, just take himself to little classes and feed himself and comb his hair and all that stuff? Like that was the part that I found odd, was what are you guys going to do with this kid? Shouldn't somebody be watching over him?
Yeah, I think that was one of the big holes in the story. What happens to these people? Is there an orphanage that they end up going to? Is there child welfare services that comes through and looks out for the best interests of these kids? That part wasn't explained well enough, and it was almost, that was the tragedy in this episode. What really pulled at me emotionally was the alien in this episode was actually doing more to comfort this kid in my opinion, than the adults on the Enterprise, who seem to be motivated by their own experiences as opposed to empathizing with his. It felt like, from Worf's perspective, it was about Worf and his rituals and his customs and his grief. And then from Wesley, it was his perspective of his grief and how he has to deal with it. He's still tormented. The only person that I really felt was making an effort was Troy to be there for the kid in some type of way, because she was actually saying to him, what I'm going to tell you is the truth. What you're seeing here is a lie. It's an illusion. It's not real. And so, but yeah, that's a big hole in the story too. And again, it's the flaw of the show. And so, I mean, not of the show, but of Picard's character, which is now uprooted in this episode and not even dealt with I liked when Picard's arguing on behalf of the kid, saying, arguing on his behalf, because he's a child, so he can't argue in his own defense. He can't say what he wants for himself. I want to go with this alien to live on the planet. That's what I want. At least at this point in time, we were seeing that the decision was in Picard's hand and not in the child's hand about what he wanted to going forward. It was like, no, this is what's going to happen. So I guess that's my biggest issue with this episode. It tried to attack the character flaw, but it also just left more questions than answers for me. And the biggest question was, what does happen to this kid? Because Crusher, um, Wesley has his mom.
Right.
I had my dad. And so when you have a surviving parent, it says, okay, well, now you have a single parent who has the full responsibility of what both parents would be doing. So that makes more sense that Wesley is still on the ship because his mom is the doctor, and then he's there. It makes more sense that I'm on a space station because my dad's the captain. I have somebody there. But when somebody is underage with no adult supervision, no surviving parent, or even other relative, they didn't mention aunts, uncles, or
Nothing. Yeah.
grandparents. Like they didn't even say, well, you're going to go live with your grandfather who's in some we're going to take you there, don't worry. It's more like, hey, don't believe in the illusion of this comfortable thing. It's going to be really sucky when you live here by yourself in your own place.
Yeah, but it'll be real. So you want reality, kid. Reality, you're going to love it. I mean, it's terrible, but you're going to love it,
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. It would have been nice to see them starting to put together a plan of action for this kid, or have something in place, which is, I mean, they did mention that he had some grandparents somewhere, but they didn't say, so the next time we visit that star base, we'll be leaving him with them. I feel like they should have some kind of plan in place for any of these things, where it's like there's like a family tree or ladder, which is like, in case of death, the child custody goes to this one, goes to this one, goes to this one, wherever it is, whether it's on the ship or whether it's, off the ship. And then they would say, for example, okay, so if the kid loses his mom, he goes to stay with his grandparents. But until they go to the grandparents, he is left under the custody of the mom's best friend on the ship, so-and-so, for a week or a month or however long it takes for, I feel like they would certainly have that kind of plan in place or something like that. But the funniest thing was, okay, so he got a brother. Worf was like, we are brothers now. I'm like, I don't think he needs a brother, dude. I mean, that's cool, I guess. But I didn't expect Worf to say we are brothers. I was expecting him to say, he'll take custody or he'll be his godfather or something. Worf's like, oh, no. You thought I was going to take every. No. I'm just going to like give you high fives, give you magazines, take you fishing sometimes. Like, no, what? You got, sorry about the loss of your parents, kid. Here's a Klingon brother that's like 30 years older than you. Okay.
Yeah.
It's weird and scary.
We are second cousins. Here's a sash.
Yeah, we're drinking buddies, kid. All right, let's party.
Back to your room.
In 7 years of Deep Space Nine, did we ever hear about Worf talking about his other brother, or just Kern? I don't remember him ever saying, oh, Jeremy Astor is all grown up. He's graduating high school this year, I'm so proud of my brother who's 30 years younger than me.
Yeah, this particular subject should be avoided, because it just doesn't bring out the best. It exposes a character flaw in Picard, even if he tries to deal with it and try to attack it. It just doesn't come off with the same kind of compassion to me. It came off a little rigid. He feels rigid and not comfortable in these situations. So it doesn't allow him to be the cool, calm, collected, leader that I'm used to seeing him. It puts him in a situation in which he looks uncomfortable to be dealing with these matters, And normally he's so calm and comfortable even when facing, existential crises. He's still always level-headed and, quoting Shakespeare and playing mental chess with his opponent. And when the kid comes around, he's just like, what's the boy want? Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. Why is he here,
Yeah.
man?
But he has a valid point though about this. This is a valid point about children living on, like basically a destroyer or a battleship is what this is the equivalent of, right? And yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I mean, it's different than if you were like in my situation, it was a space station, so it wasn't exactly something that's a vessel going out looking for combat. It's a colony or a station. It's like it's meant for being a place of a habitat. But when you're talking about a ship that's armed with weapons, that's out in a lot of dangerous situations, episode after episode,
and isolation,
dangerous. Yeah, it's not exactly the place for a kid. And I agree with him. I think there should be some standards of, okay, if you're 17 or older, 16 or older, maybe you can accompany, maybe there's certain guidelines to that degree, because then if you are 16, 17, you could live alone if your parent passed away. It wouldn't be that outside of the, spectrum for a 17-year-old to live by himself. But for a 9-year-old, it seems
12.
like, or 12-year-old. Yeah, it's like, what?
There's no way.
So, no, Worf's not good. Worf's tucking you into bed at night, and
I thought he was doing that for Wesley. Oh no, not anymore. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's like, stupid Beverly Crusher's back now. I can't have a little godson. I really liked hanging out with Wesley. So now he's just like, he got this guy's mom killed, and he's like, oops, I guess we'll just have to be friends now and brothers. Maybe Worf's just lonely. He just needs a friend to hang out with, but
yeah, like, someone your own age, bro. Like, seriously.
Yeah, but to your point about the 12-year-old, and by the way, I did see that fly coming at you. That guy was aggressive. Flies are like, they don't take a hint. They're not good with nonverbal cues. You can kind of go like this, like, no, I don't want to hang out. Most people figure it out. Flies are like, what? You want me to kiss and bump into your face and come at you? Anyway, but yeah.
My thing is this, like, there's so much space, but they want to be like around your face. Like, be
of all the you have a whole world. Even this house is like a world to you. Yeah, you could have that whole side of the house. You could have that entire room to yourself. Exactly. He's like, yeah, but I want to be friends. He's like Worf, He's like,
but what's here though? What's over here? But what's right here?
What are you eating? What's happening? What does your lip taste like? That's what they like to do.
Yeah.
We'll talk a bit more about this. I also wanted to get into Troy as well and talk about her situation and all that. So we'll get back and discuss all that and so much more on this riveting episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I feel like we've been waiting forever to get a Ronald D. Moore episode, and I believe this is his first one ever in Star Trek ever, so that's exciting. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I believe so, yeah. So we will come right back, everybody. Stick around. We got a quick break. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
All right, here are the trivioids of the week. A record low number of trivioids. Was it because there wasn't a lot of trivia? Was it because I was so gripped by the information? I don't know. But here they are. The Koinonians... See, first try. The Koinonians were an intelligent culture which became embroiled in a war that lasted for several generations. Lieutenant Marla Astor has been killed. Jeremy Astor's dad died 5 years ago from a Rushton infection. And Worf has a new brother. Yeah, not a ton this time, but let's just get back into this.
We did have a couple NAMs, though. I know you picked up on those. We did have some of those.
I got 4.
4? I got 2. So I got the two obvious ones, which
Yeah.
are Tasha Yar, which another kudos to Next Generation, because they have given more shout outs to Tasha Yar
I
than I think
know.
episode she was in.
I
Like,
know.
it's like, if you're going to shout her out that much, why don't you just bring her back? It's crazy to me how many times she gets a shout out. And I was thinking of when she was getting her shout out, I was thinking of Diana Muldaur's character, Dr. Pulaski,
Pulaski.
right? And I was thinking, she didn't even get a mention about where she is, like this is like a little throwaway line, like, yeah, too bad Dr. Pulaski had to get transferred to, Theta 11 or something. Like, there no follow up like Pulaski line. Maybe it's coming, so there's still time. But they did mention Pulaski, but it was when Dr. Crusher a couple of episodes ago said, "I'm aware of Dr. Pulaski's method of, memory erasing," on
Right.
that one particular shout out. But it was just it talked about her. It didn't give her enough to me. It was like, oh yeah, I remember when Dr. Pulaski did that in that episode. That's basically what it was saying. But it doesn't say why or where she is. Just a little shout out to that would make me just put it to bed in my head. Like, okay, Dr. Pulaski got transferred to Starfleet Medical because the dean of, you know what I mean, internal medicine stepped
Right.
down, and she, you know what I mean?
Anything like that would have, because they did that for Beverly Crusher. They definitely gave her, the backstory. So we got that, we consumed it. We're like, oh, okay, she went to be head of Starfleet Medical. And then
Yeah.
Pulaski's gone, and they're like, never mind about Starfleet Medical. But what about Pulaski? Nah, never mind about that either. Just stop asking so many questions, kid. Crusher's back. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
But
exactly. So yeah.
I do think.
So that's one. That's one Nam.
Right.
One.
And then
And also Jack Crusher. That's the dad, Wesley's dad. And now who else?
The other two are kind of a combo, a twofer. Worf's parents. He mentioned his parents, the Rozhenkos, that have not yet been introduced in this show yet, but I think they've been mentioned before. This may not be their first. Now, let me see. I think we had them once before. Yes.
Rozhenkos.
I think just his mom or his dad was mentioned. I don't see his mom being mentioned yet, just his dad. But in this case, they were both mentioned because he said, his parents or, whatever. So
yes,
that's a toughie. That was a little sneak in right there. But I do think they did a good job again with Troi, giving her something to do. And I really think that her place should be with the captain in an advisory role, like going with him to meet alien races, going with him to make command decisions, going with him in meetings, going with him to address things. So I really like it when the captain is, oh, I got to go over here, and I'm seeing Troi with him, because I'm like, that's a good place for her. She's the counselor. She should be counseling the captain on his big decisions. And in this case, it was more to deal with the kid, but I just like the optics of seeing her side by side walking with him. It gives her a role. It gives her, something to do, and it works. It makes sense.
Yeah. I actually think that they're not using Troy's character properly. And if she were to be I think it should be like how a counselor is in school. A counselor in school is in an office. And when you have an issue, you go to the counselor's office. They close the door, and they sit down and talk to you about your issue. When The Sopranos brought in the therapist / counselor on that show, that's how that character functions. So Tony Soprano was able to let out his innermost feelings in this setting, and it lets you in on the mindset and the inner workings of your star, who's not going to go around telling everybody what's in his head, but he can in this particular instance.
Right.
So to me, that's the tool. The counselor is to find out more about Picard and less about what is obvious. Like, I sense great anger, Worf. Like, yeah, he's running around throwing stuff. It's like,
he's killing
he's
people.
Yeah, he's walking around the room. So like, I think it would be best suited. This is hindsight, but this is my opinion. If Counselor Troy was in her room, she has a part of the ship that's the counselor's office, and ever so often, when Picard feels frustrated and he needs some advice, he goes into there and speaks with her and lets off his personal, so we get an insight into his mind. And it really should be just used for that purpose, mostly in general, because I didn't think it was even from the beginning when we first watched this pilot episode, and I saw that he's seated by Riker on one side and his counselor on the other. It's weird. To me, it's weird. And it's like having your psychiatrist come to work with you. Right? It's like you go to work.
He should say, let's go save those things. And then she should lean over and say, well done, Jean-Luc. Good answer.
Yeah.
Very good. And that was very, thank you, counselor. Yes, save the people on the planet.
Exactly. So to me, it was already from the jump awkward by putting her in the seat next to the captain with the number one. This is not the appropriate use of this particular character, in my opinion. It's like putting a psychiatrist in the war room when you're firing off missiles. It's like having an F-15 jet and there's the fighter pilot and then there's his counselor behind him. Like
so you got your thumbs up. That was pretty good.
Yeah. So I just don't feel like it's the appropriate use of a counselor. And from the beginning, I felt that way. And still, it's not properly, the moment in the elevator was kind of the way it should be used. In that elevator moment, they stopped the elevator and she was like, what's bothering you? And he kind of went off on his, I don't feel that a kid should be in the ship. That's the moment that you get what's on the captain's mind in this private setting where he's confiding in her about something. And to me, that's the best way to use the counselor. All of this always on the scene, away team. No, I think the counselor should be used in the same way that a psychiatrist or school counselor is used. That's my opinion.
So, there's so much stuff there. I think they're using her, slightly different version of a counselor, but more to not just as a therapist, but also to counsel the captain, to counsel the command decisions, to, like sometimes a counselor is not necessarily like a therapist, although she does kind of come off as a therapist, but I think her role is to counsel in big decisions and to bring forward information. But to your point about having an office, we do eventually, if no spoilers, but we do see her office and we do see Captain Picard and others visiting her in there. Like I remember at the end of Chain of Command, the end of Chain of Command, when he's talking with her, he's sitting in the counselor's office. Reginald Barclay, who we have not been introduced to yet, he goes and visits her all the time, and he's such a mess. And there's some great stories with him, one of my favorite characters ever. So, and then there are a couple other times.
Eventually
so we
get
do
there.
see that, eventually. Yeah. I don't know when it starts, but I know I personally remember seeing it a bunch of times eventually, but we've never seen it yet, right?
Because she functions to me in more of a therapist role than as like general counsel type of, advice giver in certain critical situations. She functions to me in more like a therapist role kind of capacity. So that's why I feel like the office setting would be better, and also you get the chance to have those one-on-one interactions, revealing the inner workings of your characters and having them walk through their thought process. So that's all.
Yeah, it would have been cool, you're right, to give her more of a title like advisor, because then that's a totally different avenue for us to view her, or a different lens from which to view her, because counselor does kind of make us think in that certain direction. But it really just goes down to the same thing we've been saying since day one, which is her role is not clearly defined, and we can't really understand, so I can only imagine how difficult and frustrating it was for the actress, for Marina Sirtis, because she's kind of, as an actor, you need to be able to fully grasp your character. You need to understand their backstory, their role, who they like, who they don't like, their fears, their hopes. And if it's kind of changing and evolving depending on who's writing the episode that week, it's really hard to get a consistent performance if your character is not consistently written and doesn't have a consistent role, So it's got to be. Yeah. I'm sure if we mentioned that to her, she would not disagree that it was difficult to really have, grasp, because it felt like whoever was writing it that week, or especially from season to season, her role does change and is kind of flipping around a bit.
It's not really built on a solid type of foundation. She's defining it by feeling her way through it, not easily, but she's doing a very good job. The other thing that kind of I thought was good in this episode was the music, and over and over again we kind of come with music, but the music allowed certain levels of eeriness and mystery to have their accentuation in those moments. So I paid attention to the music. I was almost going to laugh. I mean, I know it's not funny, but when Worf walks into the boys' quarters and finds the ghost mom there, he pulls out his phaser and he's about to kill her.
It was the tiniest tic tac of a phaser, right? He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you," and he pulled out this little thing, like, boy, look how intimidating this is.
And then I'm thinking to myself, you can't kill his mom in front of her after you just told her. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, right.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. He doesn't know that this is an alien, whatever.
Can you imagine? Then the kid's like, "You now killed my mom twice, dude. I don't want to be your brother. Leave me alone. Stop killing my mom," or different versions of the same mom. He's like, "But we will be brothers." I don't want you as my brother. You're the worst brother ever.
Ever. You keep killing my mom. It's like, that would have been. I was thinking to myself, no, don't do it, bro. That's going to make it worse, And
we will live happily ever after. We just need to get this mom out of our way. Damn it! I miss Wesley. Go find another Wesley. Leave me out of this.
It's like, seriously, Worf, I was just watching a video. You didn't have to shoot the screen. I thought that was another version of your mom.
Like, you don't have to burn all of her clothes too, and phaser the pictures we have together.
Yes,
I will erase her memory from your life forever. No more mom.
Seriously, bro. Seriously, I was like, you can't kill his mom again, man. Please leave the lady alone. She's not harming the boy right now, so you got to ease up a little bit. So yeah, that kind of made me laugh. I was laughing. I was like, wow, he's almost killed her again.
Along the lines of leaving a 12-year-old kid to live on his own, I did notice that Jeremy never changed his clothes. And I'm like, I don't know how many days have passed, but this kid needs a parent. Otherwise, he's like, great, I'm never going to shower. I'm never going to change my clothes. I'm never going to comb my hair. I'm just going to party. I'm just going to eat M&Ms all day. M&Ms, Skittles, and Pop Rocks. That's what I'm living off of. But I did want to point out that cat was like, I immediately
Yeah.
fall in love. That cat was so freaking cute. Although they could have brushed the cat's hair. The cat was looking a
Yeah.
little,
Is that Patches?
yeah,
Patches?
cat was looking a little unwashed. Yeah, I mean, they could have fluffed him up a bit, but anyway, that's just good old Patches. He's really cute. But what I did notice, and I went back and I played it again, but that cat meow that they had for Patches, I'm like, there's no way that's not the same meow they use for every cat. Because I recognized it. I was like, that's the same meow they used for like Chester on Deep Space Nine.
Mm.
And maybe later on for Spot, we'll find out. But like when I heard it, I recognized that meow. I was like, that's the same exact meow. And no, not all cats sound the same. They have different meows. Some cats meow in the most hilarious ways and different ways, but this was the same meow I've heard before. So I know. And so then I rewound it to see it. Do we even see that cat's mouth move? No, we don't. That's just like, they've added an ADR. They're like, let's use our standard cat meow that we use every time. And then later on, when they had Chester the cat, they're like, same meow, So anyway, I'm like, every once in a while, like when you used to watch like old cartoons, you'd recognize the
Yeah.
same laser sound from one show to the next, or the same explosion,
Yeah.
or the same dragon roar. And then later on, you hear it's a lion monster roar. And then later on, you see it's a giant alien guy roar. And they're all the same roar. I think they have the same cat one, is all I have to say about
Yeah, we tried to get Patches on for this episode, but he turned us down.
that. Yeah. He's like, just get my sound bite. Use that. You got my permission.
Yeah. I noticed that O'Brien was in this episode, and he
Mhm.
had a couple of standout scenes, a couple of I like looks. He gives the great looks, and he also had a line, "Alien alert, transporter room 3." That was kind of his line in this episode. But what's up with the names, the Koenonians? I was like, didn't they just do the Iconians? Aren't the
Mhm.
Iconians something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had those just a few episodes ago, and then they're revisited later on in new Star Trek. But yeah, the Koinonians, I did not remember this, but when they mentioned it, my first thought was, did Ronald D. Moore was this? He's like, all right, this is my first episode I'm writing. I'm going to come up with a name that's weird and hard to pronounce. Like, it was like Data that said, he said the Koinonians. I was like, whoa, you can't just sneak in a Koinonian without me saying, what the hell did he just say? It's such a weird word to
It
me.
is, and I thought of the Iconians, and I was like, that's so close to the
Yeah, you're right.
Iconian, Koinonians. It was just, it stood out just in the name alone. Um, but I don't know if you saw the childhood house of this Jeremy character when they built that set for this childhood. They recreated his childhood house, and it was supposed to be the fantasy that he always wanted, to be living with his mom back at home,
Hmm.
and the ideal circumstances. But then when you saw the artwork, I don't know if you paid attention to the set dressing, but if you looked at the set dressing and the art that was up around in this house,
Sorry, I was
it was some
distracted
of
by the cat. That was the only set
uh
dressing I was
that's all these
noticing, to be honest.
okay. Oh yeah, well, if you look on the walls, there's painting, sculptures, and kinds of weird looking artwork, but some of it is like, so like, it's frightening. It's
Hmm.
frightening if you were a kid and you saw, these masks, these weird masks. They kind of like African masks, but they're African masks taken to the maximum voodoo level. So it's like scary
Ooh.
looking stuff.
And
And
there are
so
some things when you're a kid that,
yeah,
in a house that scare you. Like there's some
yeah,
paintings, or there's some things where you're just like, or there's like a corner of the
yeah.
house or the attic, or there's some, there's always something that kind of creeps you out. But yeah, if you got creepy paintings, what do you think you're doing to that kid?
Yeah, that's what I thought to myself. I was like, this is not a good setting for a kid. You can't have, like, I remember, like, my dad had a piece of art with a Native American kind of drawings on it, and I was always scared of whatever was on that drawing. It just didn't look Yeah, it looks scary for a kid. So
Hmm.
I would always avoid, like avoid eye contact with that
So if
teacher.
he wanted to punish you, he'd be like, some people would say, like, go to your room. He'd be like, go stare at the painting for 50 minutes. You're like, I swear I'll do better.
No,
I'll never do it
yes,
again. I
I
promise.
don't want to see that. Yes,
Stare at it.
yes, exactly. There
Okay.
was also a flaw in this episode too, but I guess we could talk
Oh,
about that later. There was a little gif that I noticed, but we can talk about it later.
all right. If you want to hold it, because it's time for the home run of the episode. Cirroc Lofton, who gets the home run of the episode today?
The home run of the episode. Um, hmm. Yeah, I'm just gonna give it to Ron Moore for breaking his first episode and breaking into the Star Trek, universe, because I know there's so much more great things to come. But he's been so instrumental in creating so much of the universe.
Mhm.
This may not be the best of his work, but it's the first of the best of his work, and so I think that he'll get the home run for getting his feet wet.
That's a good one. I think I'm gonna be a switch hitter. What do they say? Yeah, I'm gonna hit with my left
Mm,
hand instead of my right. I'm gonna say Dark Horse, Beverly Crusher, Gates McFadden, because there was a
mm,
scene in which and so she didn't have a lot to do in this episode, but there was a scene with her and Wesley when Wesley was remembering the passing of his father. And she just, for that short moment, she kind of breaks down and starts to cry and she hugs him. But there was some really good acting in that one moment where she didn't
mm,
say anything, but she showed it on her face.
mm.
And, that was a magical moment. She nailed it. The camera got it. And that's all we needed to know that, she's still carrying all that pain. She's got all that pain for her husband, for herself, watching her son, relive all that, and she did a great job. She had a great moment. So I think that's my home run of the day, a pinch hitter today.
Mm. Very
All
nice.
right. Yeah, thanks. Here are some other big hitters that we'd like to say thank you to. Their names are Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Titus Mohler, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Goo, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, My Life from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allyson Leach-Heid, Julie Manasfi, Marcia Classic Schreier, Greg K. Wickstrom, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, and of course, Jason Okun. All right, everybody, stick around. We've got the free for all up next. We will be right back. Please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and leave us a nice review. We'd really appreciate it. Be right back with the free for all on the seventh rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule. This is a very serious edition of the free for all. Melissa Longo is here with us. Cool Riza and Chill shirt with Captain Picard showing some thigh.
Yeah, so sexy.
Jason Okun is here. He forgot to wear his Riza and Chill shirt. He's got two of them. Faith Howell is here hanging out outside of Deep Space Nine. Greg Kenzo out in Hawaii has got his It's a Jake shirt. That's always fun. Carrie Schwent is hanging out. Oh, that's so cute. You have Patches and Spot and other kitties.
Yep.
TJ Jackson-Bey is repping the cruise, which is coming up soon. Very cool. That's the 2022 version, if I remember correctly. The Dark Lord, Chris McGee, is here to drop some knowledge on us. Allyson Leach-Heid has a cool hoodie from the seventh rule. You can get yours at the link in the description box below.
Woo,
Nice.
stumbled.
Yeah. And Justin Weir is here. He's going to say something funny and fun. Merry Trekmas.
Nice.
Yeah. Good timing. All right. Here we go.
It's
Oh,
cold
first
here.
things first. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I'm going to go with a 6.7.
Mm-hmm.
6.7.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have any guesses that does not already know the answer to that question?
7-1.
7-3.
7-9.
7-2.
Nice.
Ooh.
Any guesses, Faith?
2.2.
Sorry, I asked. Wow. All right. Some of you know that Cirroc nailed it. 6.7.
Oh,
Fantastic.
wow.
Right on
Finally,
cue.
Getting back. Getting it back.
Yeah.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
did you guys catch the NAMs? We were talking about the NAMs. We actually got 4.
No,
No,
Jack Crusher.
Jack Crusher.
Yeah.
Tasha.
The
Right.
Rosenkos.
Yep, those are the other 2. Got it.
Oh.
Very
Mhm.
good. Excellent. All right. Let's get into this. Let's have some fun. Melissa Longo, will you please get us started? What did you think of this episode?
This episode for me was very difficult to watch, not because it was a bad episode, but the subject matter hit pretty close to home. So yeah, it was difficult to watch. I was reading IMDb, and so I already knew the score, the reviews, and so many of them commented on how stoic they thought the kid was in this episode. And I couldn't help but thinking how unfair an assessment that is, because who are we to dictate how somebody else grieves? It's not unusual for adults or children to withdraw when experiencing trauma. There is a level of shock that goes into that loss, and denial is one of the 5 stages of grief. If you Google it, that's the first one that pops up. So his reaction didn't jar me at all. In fact, quite the opposite. So I think he did an okay job. Gates McFadden, she blows me away every time I watch her. The scene with Wesley and her, it wrecked me. I was bawling when watching that scene. So yeah. And lastly, last 2 things. The kid's eyes, gorgeous. And Patches is so cute.
Yeah.
Patches is so cute. I want to cuddle the kitty. So that's my takeaway. Effective episode for me. And yeah, definitely took stuff away from.
That is such a cute picture of that cat, too. My goodness.
So cute.
And he was purring and loving every second of it. That was awesome.
Yes.
That was Jason Okun's favorite scene. What'd you think of this episode, Jason?
Well, this one is interesting, at least for me, because I think I've grown to like it more and more as I get older. I think I didn't appreciate it as much when I was younger, but the fact that it's a quiet episode, that the themes are pretty somber. Obviously, we're dealing with death, and as somebody on Star Trek once said, dealing with death is as important as we deal with life. So this is something certainly to look at, and the fact that the idea comes from the mind of Ron Moore, who's done a lot of wonderful things on Deep Space, and it's even though obviously he was and he said that he was rewritten, I guess, by Melinda and by Michael Piller afterwards, but the germ of the idea in the story comes from him. So you do have that sense of kind of personality, a sense of character coming from this. And that's why the performances are what they are. And I think it's, Rick Colby is always on his game. So I think he got the best out of everybody here. And, to see Saint Worf, Ryan, behind you, it's It's one of those interesting scenes. But no, I think it was very well done. It certainly makes you think. There's a lot more to be said about this, and I'll save that for later. But it's really as an adult episode. It's really something that you need to sit back and think about. It's not, if you will, for the kiddies, but it's certainly a worthy entry and something I think that stays with you for a while.
Excellent pun there, Jason. Kitties, I loved it. All right. Faith Howell is here. What is up, Faith? What'd you think of this one?
So I'm only here because Justin made me. So I'm not going to say this very often. But you will find I'm a very soft-hearted person, and I find this episode entirely unwatchable. To the point that as it was continuing from the last episode 2 weeks ago, I watched through last week's episode completely fine, and when this one hit the screen, my throat closed up. There was an elephant on my chest, and I could not turn off the TV fast enough. So I have not seen this one. I'm really hoping that you guys will redeem it for me. I actually have the meeting chat over top of Melissa and I think Greg, because I cannot even look at the mom in the background photos. Because I too many feelings as a mom. Like this is the fear all around. This was my fear as a child, losing my parents, and now as an adult, what happens to my kid after I'm gone? I'm sorry, I wasn't going to go there. Justin made me do it. I love you, Justin. You know I'm here for you. But yeah, so I can't watch this episode. So you guys, please give me something to like about it, because I can't.
Well, thank you for that, Faith. That's great stuff. I mean, it's got a cat in it, though. It's really cute.
And purrs.
I know. What's up, Greg Kenzo? What'd you think of this one?
This one hit me right in the feels. Faith, should I change my background? Like, I feel bad. I mean, it is a little freaky. I was debating whether or not to put it on, but yeah. Anyway, this one it hit me right in the feels, and I'm surprised that not more people like it. I know it is somber, like a few of you have said, but there's some scenes in it that really hit hard. Melissa mentioned the one that got me going, and it takes quite a lot to get me going. So, yeah, it's the Wesley and Beverly Crusher scene. That it was just, they both deliver it so well. Like, they play it off like they don't think about Jack Crusher very often, but in the end, they reveal that they both see him or have a hard time remembering his face, and that hit home. But I can understand why this one is a little freaky. A lot of horror strings, like you'll hear the violin like kind of scrape. I think it is. It's like I don't know if it's a Hitchcock element, or like you'll hear the and then like other sci-fi horror elements. I think there's like percussive, maybe wind chimes, or I don't even know what instrument it is, but it's kind of like a sci-fi horror element. But yeah, let me just say that, well, to Faith too, the ending kind of redeems it for me, where the alien ends up being, sympathetic and like non-hostile the whole time, and just wanted to take care of the kid, and it ends up being a story of everyone looking out for the kid. But I'll end with this. This is what I got for the philosophy of the episode. Lieutenant Astor says, "I can provide him, speaking of the kid, an existence where he feels no pain, no anguish." Picard says, "It is at the heart of our nature to feel pain and joy. It's an essential part of what makes us what we are." Yeah. And so, and then it goes on, but we'll leave it there. It's
great stuff. Thanks very much, Greg Kenzo. Carrie Schwent with all of her kitties in the background. What's up with you? What'd you think of this one?
Oh yeah, I could not have my own fur babies behind me, including one of them being a calico herself, Miss Kenzie, over here, and then we got Skippy and Jake and Nog.
Nice.
Above my head, being the newest additions to the house. And I've got three things, one of which is a fun cat fact that I'll save for later. But I really, really, really like this episode, the entire thing. 6.7 is way too low. So many fantastic performances. I'll run through my little list here quick. Worf with Jeremy, he was so great with him. I love the way he just wanted to take care of the kid because he went through something similar. It's such a shame though that we never see or hear about this kid again. I wouldn't mind that him being one of those threads that maybe Lower Decks, or perhaps if Legacy ever gets off the ground, maybe he shows up somehow, being inspired by Worf joined Starfleet, maybe. And Picard, for someone who doesn't really enjoy being around kids or is uncomfortable with kids, it's so gentle with Jeremy, especially when he's breaking the news to him and telling him he's not alone on the ship. I love that scene. And Data and Riker in 10-4, their whole conversation about why does death hit harder with some people and not with others. And you guys know me and how I get over fictional deaths, and with ones in real life. The ones that hit me harder, or in the case of characters, are characters that I'm more attached to than others. So I absolutely, just that scene in particular really spoke to me. I liked Jeremy's performance. I thought the kid had a neat look. Yeah, like amazing eyes. I meant to write down the actor's name, but the actor's name is very much something that sounds either like a hopefully this makes Faith laugh, like a sexy vampire kind of name, or something, a name you'd hear on like a soap opera. It's a very
Sexy
cool
vampire.
Yeah, I mean, some of the pictures I've seen of the kid as when he got a little bit older, I could see him being in like a vampire TV show or something. Oh, Gabriel Damon. Thank you, Chris McGee. Yeah, you see what I mean. But part of the inspiration for the limerick for today is partly inspired by that conversation, and a couple parts of Troy's conversations with Worf and Picard kind of peppered through the episode. And Troy, by the way, fantastic also. You really get to see what she does all day long when she's not sitting on the bridge. The way she dealt with Picard, the way she dealt with Worf, the way she was with the kid. And yeah, I like what she said about getting someone to a state of joy. Yeah, I absolutely knew what she meant by that. So here is the following limerick. All deaths should be equally tragic, though some reactions can be erratic. But when grief is shared, it is easier to bear. Compassion should always be pragmatic. And in honor of Riker, I toast with my pink lemonade.
Yum. Great. Thanks very much, Carrie Schwent, and your pink lemonade. TJ Jackson-Bey is here, actually in Missouri, but virtually here. What'd you think of this one?
Well, watching this episode again, I think I saw it different this time. And it's an episode that can be viewed from so many different perspectives. There's the mystery of what's going on with the planet and this life form. And then there's the human story of, what's going on the ship with the experience of loss. And just so many different ways to approach that. I super appreciate what Faith came to express. We talked about it a little bit before, and honestly, that's a perspective that I hadn't considered before. So I'm grateful to be able to see it from that new perspective as well. But this time when I was watching it, I saw more of the human story than I've seen before, and watching, um, Wesley, and right from the beginning, when Riker's on the bridge, he recognizes that Wesley needs to talk, that this is kind of hitting him a little bit, and then we get to follow that story, throughout. And I also, I think Gabriel Damon knocked this out of the park as Jeremy Astor, and done a really, really good job of being able to show us his journey through this. At first he's trying to be strong. And even when, the mom first appears, he's a little bit hesitant to start to open up. And, he doesn't immediately jump up and for joy that it looks like that she's back. But then when she disappears, that's when, the journey moves a little bit further. And then, when Wesley comes and talks to him and they're all, in the quarters talking together, he finally kind of lets it go. And I just think that he done a really good job of inviting us into this journey that hits us all a little close to home, because, death is something that we have to deal with, no matter who we are. We have to deal with that, and we all deal with it in our own ways, as Melissa, mentioned before. One thing that I appreciated from a metaphysical standpoint was when Counselor Troy is in the turbo lift talking to Captain Picard. She mentions something like that change and death, are part of the cycle that we go through. Picard brings it up again, later on. That's the nature of the world that we live in, and the way that we deal with it is impactful to our lives, no matter who we are. So, I appreciate this episode for that reason, even though it's more difficult for some of us, and I appreciate that too, and I appreciate that being expressed here in this environment. I have a quote that I think was one of my favorite quotes. So that there are so many, and I have so much more to say, later on. But the quote that I'll reference here was from LaForge, when he said, "Let's just hope this thing doesn't blow us to Kingdom Come while it's trying to figure out how to blow us to Kingdom Come."
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for the metaphysical Counselor T-Joy. You're like our personal Counselor Troy, but you deal in the metaphysical. Yay. Wait, do you do sense our emotions? I bet, don't you?
I do.
I love it. Thank you very much, TJ. Chris McGee, the Dark Lord, is here from the light to the dark. What do you think of this one?
Oh boy. So this one, thematically, I think it's a pretty good study into grief and carrying on after a loss, especially for being the first time I think that Star Trek has really explored this topic. Of course, made that much harder by the Koinonian, I believe is how it's pronounced, pretending to be Jeremy's mother. So like Jason and TJ, I really appreciate it more now as an adult than I did when I first saw it as a teenager. Of course, as Carrie had mentioned, that scene between Riker and Data and 10-4 discussing death and closeness is pure gold and needs no additional comment from me. And I feel the same way as Melissa, that touching moment between Wesley and his mother during their discussing their memories of Jack Crusher never fails to bring a tear to my eye, if not more. On the technical side, the cinematography really caught my attention in this episode, with all the close-ups and personal scenes, like a Picard's hand grasping Jeremy's, of Riker when he's drinking in 10-4 and talking with Data, and the framing of Troy and Worf's conversation through that grate. I thought that was caught my attention, and I really like that. I kind of wonder if the reason for those close-ups is to make us as an audience feel closer to the characters, more intimate and personal. maybe even reminding us of how keenly we might feel their loss if one of them were to die. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I don't know. But finally, my memorable quote of the episode has always stuck with me, and that is, maybe if we felt any loss as keenly as we felt the death of one close to us, human history will be a lot less bloody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Chris McGee. Allyson Leach-Heid is here. What's up, Allyson? What'd you think of this one?
I do like this episode. This is not one I've seen a lot as a kid, because they didn't show it for kids during the day when I was little. It was probably too heavy, as Jason was saying, and so this was one I saw more as an adult. And I really like that we get to see grief of losing parents through different ages, and how each age, how these people are dealing with it. So we have Jeremy as a young child and being fresh. And then we have Wesley, who's been living with the grief of having lost his father for many, many years. And then we have Worf, who has been without his parents for way more of his life than he ever had them. And so seeing each stage of grief and how that pain is still the same size, but the box we hold it in gets bigger. I thought the actors did a wonderful job with that. So that's what I enjoy of this episode. And of course, Deanna has something to do, and Marina does a wonderful job with it. So it is not an easy watch, again, especially as mom, but it is a heartfelt episode that they did a wonderful job on. And I can see why lots of people don't like it, because it's hard to watch. My favorite line is from Picard, and that's, what you are offering him is a memory, something to cherish, not to live in.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Allyson. Ooh, you got a couple of applause. That was good. A human one and a Bajoran one there. That's good. Justin Weir, aka Shag 840, is here. What's up? What'd you think of this one?
Hello. I did not do my homework like I normally do. I usually can't make these when we record on Thursday, but I've seen it a bunch of times. I got it on in the background. But I will say what TJ said was, that's a really good point of that we all view things like this differently. And Faith, I appreciate what you said, because as someone, I don't plan on having kids, and usually I skip this one when I watch this series, but there is a lot of feelings in this episode. I think what I really like about this episode is that it really dives into the Wesley and his dad, and then back to Worf, and they're all here for this kid, which everyone already said it. That actor as a kid, that's an amazing job. I can't even imagine being a young kid and your mom dies, and all of a sudden your mom's there saying, I love you, come live with me. Like, wow. That's going to take a toll on anyone, and he's probably going to need Troy's help in the future after this. I like the line where Wesley said that, oh my goodness, I remember when Picard, he gave me the same speech that he's going to have to deliver to this kid about that his dad died. Like, full circle, everyone gets it. On a lighter note, I like that we get to see, they recreate the kid's house on Earth, so we kind of get to look at what a house might look like on the inside 400 years from now. We got Miles O'Brien. I also like that blue effect that was going through the Enterprise, and it knocked those two guys over. I totally bought that. Good job. And Worf taking the kid under his wing at the end and doing the Klingon ritual. Yeah, the kid's going to be all right. He's going to need some help, but he'll be all right.
He's probably going to be a major character after this, being that close to Worf, right? I'm so looking forward to seeing him on the show from now on.
Yeah. He's gonna be his brother. They're gonna be hanging out. You're gonna be playing badminton together every day, right? Tons of episodes with them, I bet. Good stuff, Justin Weir. That does remind me that we have a lot of episodes that have the two officers walking through the hall and the magical beam shoots through and knocks him over. I feel like we've seen that in like a dozen
Yeah,
episodes,
yeah.
right? That feels like a
I
thing.
would the acting direction. All right, you guys are both gonna just fall back at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cirroc Lofton, Jake's final take. Your thoughts?
I like hearing everybody's perspective. I really like Allison's cane and different box analogy. I thought that was a very good way to put it and visualize it. I feel like one of the themes of this episode is similar to the theme that we've seen in the movie The Matrix. And that is about choosing between living in a false reality and choosing the actual reality, and which one is the one you want to have. And in this particular case, this kid dealing with this trauma, having this false reality of everything he wants, living back in his house, and his mom is there and his cat. And, I mean, it would be great. And it's a hard choice to kind of walk away from, right? It's like everything you want. But I guess the point of this is that in order to really live in reality, you get the downs as well as the ups. So I got that as part of the point. I wanted to see a burial ceremony for his mom. I think that was the element that I was missing. It would have made sense to me to see them, honor her in the same way that they honor other fallen officers, but give her a burial ceremony, give her a funeral, especially for the boy, to allow him a chance to say something, to hear words about his mom and what she was on that ship. I would have liked that, and felt like I was missing that. And then on a kind of a happier note, I will end by saying, when I saw Worf there with his Klingon weapon, I don't know which weapon that was he was holding.
Little tic tac phaser.
No, the Klingon dagger that he had.
Dick-tog.
Oh.
What was that?
A dick-tog or duck-tog.
Duck-tog, okay. Ryan's not going to touch that.
Mechleth, I'm fine saying.
Yeah.
But if it's not that, then
okay. But yeah, when he was there and the candle was there, I really was waiting to hear some soft Elton John, like a candle in the wind.
I love
that was
song.
A perfect moment for me. So that's my final.
All right. Sorry, Cirroc and I are having a little giggle here. Whoops. All right. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much to Jason Okun, Greg Kenzo, Carrie Schwent, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Chris McGee, Allyson Leach-Heid, Justin Weir, Faith Howell, for myself, Melissa Longo, Cirroc Lofton, Aaron Eisenberg, and of course, Captain Patches. Thank you all very much for joining us. Until next time, always remember the seventh rule.